What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday, mainly covering the NFL, but we're also covering NBA as the season quickly approaches. We had some Abu Dhabi games last night. Getting to see the New York Knicks in action. I like the Knicks; they're my Eastern Conference team. Just having Carl Anthony Towns. But with that being said, this is mainly an NFL podcast, and we had a big game last night. And then we also had a big MLB game. Couldn't name a better Thursday night. Out with friends at Buffalo Wild Wings, watching these games, and both were very intense. Especially this one for Thursday night, because Thursday night it feels like in the past we haven't gotten a lot of good games, but so far this season they've been pretty good. Another NFC West showdown that came right to the wire, OT. In fact, but with that being said, as always, before we get into the analysis of that and predicting some college football games this weekend, we also please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers by the end of October, so if you guys can make that happen, or just leaving a like, a view, even a dislike, any engagement helps me. So I appreciate that from you guys. But with that being said, yeah, let's get right into it. Like I said last night, we were watching the Yankees Red Sox winner go home game, and shout the Yankees, man. That Chilling guy came out as a rookie, but there were both rookies early for the Red Sox and for the Yankees. Schilling. So I was expecting more of a high scoring game than I did, but Schilling went 8 innings, was dealing, had like 12 strikeouts, really kept the Red Sox at check all night. A couple errors, from the Red Sox, the fielding, but overall, just that one big inning where they got all 4 runs. I believe that was in the fourth. That's all the Yankees needed, and they pulled away right from there. They just got some big hits from different guys in the lineup. Sorry about still dealing with some allergies. Change the season, so apologies in advance for that, guys, for the rest of the video. But Volpe got a big hit in those, and they were just collecting hits. Judge, Stan, they all got going in that inning, and that was made the difference in the game, because the Red Sox after that, I believe, only let up 4 runs in that inning, but still the playoffs, games slow down. We don't see these 10-run games a lot, unless it's the Dodgers playing, because that lineup is so good. But, credit to the Yankees in overall a great series. Only the Dodgers and Reds did not go to a win or go home game. Credit to the Tigers for pulling their game out. Kind of took control of that game early. Jack Flaherty did his job, which I didn't expect, because I did have the Guardians winning that series. I did have the Yankees win their series, even though I'm in Boston. I'm not a Red Sox fan. I thought I was going to go the distance, but after Crochet, I was a little bit scared of their pitching, even though Bayo's been solid. It was just, it was going to be a close series, because the Yankees, I don't think, are as good as they were last year, just without Juan Soto, Garrett Cole, but still, they got the job done fighting back. So credit to them. And then the Padres Cubs, credit to the Cubs. That was a 50-50 series for me, but I did pick the Padres. So I went 2 for 4, because obviously I had the Dodgers being the Reds, despite how bad the Dodgers bullpen is. So credit to the four, the whatever 4 teams that advanced. So now we have the division round series. I'll make sure to do predictions for that in a separate video. But yeah, I went 2 for 4. I got the Guardians Tigers wrong and the Padres Cubs. But the Cubs was very 50-50. Love, some of those guys on the team. But what was it? Bush had a big day, so yesterday kind of helped pull it away. Padres did make it interesting at the end of the ninth. They had runners on first and second, and scored a run. So I was like, shit, like, are we about to get a 3-run home run? But did not happen. Cubs closed the door in advance. So good for the Cubs, after the 100 years of just it felt like being cursed. They break through in 2016, were really competitive, and now they're back up. So Cubs are always fun to watch, with that iconic Wrigley Stadium. But with that being said, 49ers Rams, we'll get right into it. I was surprised in my predictions. Can go back and check, just with all the 49ers injuries, I wasn't really expecting this to be close, even though it's a divisional game. I underestimated the 49ers. I think a lot of people did. Everyone had the Rams, because the Rams, the way they've been looking this season, like I said, in my grading, I gave them an A-. They were just that one Eagles second half where they didn't show up, and that made the difference, in winning the game, or just, the 2 blocked field goals. Felt a little bit fluky, but, credit to the Eagles. They got some athletic guys on the inside that were able to finish the job. But still, the Rams, on offense have looked so dominant. The defense has, continued the momentum from last year. 49ers, no Ricky Pearsall, no Jawan Jennings. So literally just Christian McCaffrey was like the only guy I could name with Mac Jones. But they found a way, man. That defense played very scrappy. Mac Jones got cooking early, just throwing it to different guys. Still no George Kittle, but he found his tight end it was either first, second touchdown, just wide open. Kyle Shanahan coached up a good game plan, utilize Mac Jones and play action. And I think that shows we've been seeing this trend with QBs like Darnold, Jones, Daniel Jones and Mac Jones, both Joneses, so far, that these QBs can be rejuvenized if they've been with a bad organization or just have been set up to fail. Because you've seen QBs now go to Minnesota, be revitalized with Kevin O'Connell, go to San Fran, be revitalized with Kyle Shanahan, go to Andy Reid, be rejuvenated. It's, just learning from these guys can be so helpful. Sean McVay, it's been amazing. Baker Mayfield, another example. It's been truly spectacular to see. We are seeing kind of that, third market where people overpay, or, in cases of Mahomes, Josh Allen, very deserving of their $50+ million. And then, the rookie scale contracts, and then kind of this middle of the pack where these quarterbacks, end up making 25 to 35 million on discounted budget, but play at a high level. And I think the 49ers, they're an interesting choice because Brock Purdy, in the games he's played this season, hasn't looked particularly bad, but has been making some turnovers. And Mac Jones has stepped in, looked great. For them, he's 3-0 in his starts. They're 4-1 now, beating the Rams, and he just looked great overall. He threw for 300+ yards. He was getting hit a lot too. There's the iconic photo, if you haven't seen it, of his pants literally being sagged down on that OT drive just because he's getting hit. Kyle Shanahan in the OT drive led an efficient, just short, keep throwing the checkdowns, find the open read. He was doing that, led them enough to get a field goal. 49ers, though, went up early. I was very surprised, 14-0, because like I said, I thought the Rams were pretty much going to control this game. Defense just came out looking a little sluggish, and that's the beauty of Thursday night. Who comes ready to play? 49ers coming off a tough loss to the Jaguars. They came ready. Rams, I think, that emotional win over the Colts. They did fought back, though. Stafford, Nakua still had an amazing day. Kyron Williams caught 2 touchdown passes. The offense finally started to click, and, took advantage of the 49ers in the second half a little bit after San Fran went up 14-0. They fought back. I believe it was 23 to 17 or 23 to 20. Rams are moving. They have the ball in the fourth quarter, and Kyron Williams, despite how good of a game he had, gets a crucial fumble. Credit to San Fran for not giving up on the play. The D tackles swat the ball, similar to Ramondre Stevenson's fumble against the Steelers, just literally like inch away from scoring to take the lead. Rams were trying to run some clock. It was on like a first or second goal too, so Rams still had plenty of chances. They knocked the ball out, and 49ers, just run the ball. Rams still, with Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, another big game. Didn't have the best, catch percentage targets, but had, I think close to 100 yards, if not over. Just some big catches on that drive. Kyron Williams cut a Texas route on a 4th down to keep that drive going. The Rams are able to nail the field goal, which, the Rams have been getting extra points, field goals blocked. So that wasn't easy. So it was 23-20. Then, like I said, Mac Jones just led an efficient drive, was just making the easy reads to the check down. The Rams finally broke through with their first sack in OT, which I did not expect. Jared versus Byron Young, all these guys. Puna Ford, I was expecting, a lot more pressure on Mac Jones, just given the banged up offensive line. And they did get pressure, but they couldn't get sacks until that last drive. That ended up settling for a field goal. Rams moved the ball. I believe Matthew Stafford had a big completion in OT to either Devontae Adams or Tutu Atwell. But then 4th and short, it was around the 25, time wind down OT. They run the ball. The 49ers stuff them. I don't like the play call just because I'm always trusting in Matthew Stafford's hands. And I know, they can't do an RPO. He's not very mobile. So it's easy to run the ball. Kyron Williams, one of the best running backs in the league. But still, when you have Nakua, who's on a historic start to the season, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, you could have Kyron Williams catch the ball like he was doing all game. I did not like the call. Sean McVay even admitted it, though. But the thing I do respect is Sean McVay going for it. No one wants to see it end in a tie. I think people already had a bad taste in their mouth with the most recent game before this one, Sunday night, Cowboys-Packers, where it ends in a tie. Packers could manage the clock at the end. And, it just makes the standings a lot more complicated, too. All these teams are 3-1-1. Or the 49ers would be 3-1-1. Yeah, Rams would have also been 3-1-1. So it just would have made the whole complicated. So now the 49ers take first place in the NFC West with 2 big division wins on the road at Seattle week 1 and over the Rams on the road as well. So the 49ers have gone off to a great start despite all the injuries, Nick Bosa being out for the year. I don't know how they do it, but Kyle Shanahan, like I said, if he gets 10, 11 wins with this roster right now, he's winning coach of the year. And just, rejuvenizing Mac Jones, who many people thought would just be a primary backup, got traded to Jacksonville, did not play well. But Jacksonville, Doug Peterson wasn't a functional organization. Goes to Kyle Shanahan, gets a full training camp in. Looks like a guy that could make $30 million. He's playing amazing right now. So and when Brock Purdy comes back, we know at the level he can play at. But it is interesting. Maybe the 49ers, could try and get some trade chips in place, but with Brock Purdy's injury history, it's not worth it, and you want to keep Mac Jones around. And now it'll be interesting what team sees a team picks him up, because I think he's shown now more than that he can just be a capable backup. He can be a capable starter in the right circumstances. So good for Mac Jones. Good to see him rejuvenize his career. Got off to a good start with the Patriots his rookie year, leading them to the playoffs, and then found a way to break through. And just credit to the 49ers. It's not really a road game, honestly, because 49ers fans travel amazingly. It was basically all red in that, but to get the win on the road against one of the best teams in football that everyone has, including myself, a top 5 team, the second best team in the NFC behind the Eagles, they got it done. And that's all you can ask for. And if they can just get a little bit healthier, George Kittle comes back at some point. McCaffrey, thankfully, has still been healthy. Purdy, I know Nick Bosa won't be coming back this year, but just get some of those offensive players back. Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings at some point, and this offense is going to look even better. And it looked amazing last night. It turned out both offenses did really well, but the 49ers defense made timely stops in the red zone when they needed to. So credit to them bouncing back after having a slip up against the Jaguars last week. And the Rams, I'm not really too worried. I think it was just, we can see sometimes with the Rams, they fall asleep in games, it happened last year, slow start. They got off to a great start so far, and 3-2, they'll be fine. Nakua looks like the best receiver in football. He's having like a Cooper Cup season. Sean McVay knows how to scheme up offense. It's just a tough loss in division, and I think I underestimated that power, because we've seen how good Kyle Shanahan has been in the regular season against Sean McVay, and just how close their games have always been. Even last year when the 49ers were like 6-10, Rams won like 9-6. So we knew it was going to be, I should have known it was going to be closer. I still would have picked the Rams. If they were to play tomorrow, I'd still pick the Rams, but I definitely keep it at, like this, a field goal game, because it always seems to be like super close. But like I said, overall, great game, a great start to the week. Bad start to my picks, though, I must say, just because I picked the Rams, and I'm trying to have a bounce back week, because these last 2 weeks I did better last week, but it's still been rough. Week 3 was obviously my worst week, so yeah, I'll try and get that back. But with that being said, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out my full picks for week 5. We have another early start in London, where my Vikings get to play. Not really thrilled to see it, to wake up for that, but sports fans got to do what he's got to do. But with that being said, we'll recap my college football picks, top 25 last week, and then do a preview of who I think will win this week. First up was Georgia Tech Wake Forest. Ended up being a baller game. Did not give the Wake Forest respect I deserve to give them. Just the home difference in college football really makes it. Georgia Tech, though, was able to survive a gutsy win and stay ranked. Notre Dame ran over Arkansas. Notre Dame's offense is legit this year. Definitely better than last year's. Jeremiah Love come back. Carr can sling it. They got weapons. They've been putting up points every game. They did have those 2 tough losses, but if they can run the table, they definitely deserve to be in the CFP. The defense definitely still is a little suspect, but they had a good game at Arkansas this week to kind of set the tone. Next up was USC versus Illinois. Illinois was kind of dominating for a majority of this game. And then number 6 on USC, like I said, I'm not the most knowledgeable on college football. I do watch it, but just all the different games. There was number 6 on UFC really was balling. It ended up giving the lead. USC went for a 2-point conversion to make it 31-25, which ended up paying off, because then they got another touchdown, kicked the extra point to take the lead. Illinois wins it on a game-winning field goal. I did pick UNC in this one, just how Illinois got boat raced by Indiana. I believe it was at Illinois, too. I was very concerned. Still a great game, though, overall. Can't really be too mad with USC, but, Illinois, credit to them for bouncing back, needed this win, in hopes of going to the CFP. They get it done. Next up, Vanderbilt, Utah. Diego Pavia looking like a Heisman favorite. The defense, Utah State, is a good team. They were 3-0 entering this. Vanderbilt handled business. The offense looked electric. Not really much to say besides they got a big game this weekend. Next up was Auburn versus Texas A&M. Great low-scoring game. Texas A&M just knows how to win different games. They could be in a slugfest. It could be in a shootout with their win against Notre Dame. They did a good job holding Jackson Arnold in Auburn's rushing attack in check. Just do what they need to do. Next up, Ohio State continues to look like the best defense in football. The offense got going late. Jeremiah Smith had a great touchdown. the offense, just did what they need to do. They're not going to be high powered like they were last year. They did lose a lot of pieces like Judkins, Travion Henderson, that backfield, but still, they're doing their thing, continuing to ball when they need to. No Mecca Buka, but still, Jeremiah Smith in this offense will always be potent. Next up, Indiana versus Iowa. I was a little bit scared. Iowa, I think I underestimated just at Iowa how scrappy this can be, and just given the way Indiana looked last week, but they found a way to get it done. Mendoza, they went up 7-0 early, but they found a way to hold off Iowa. But credit to Iowa, they hung around, and it's always tough going to Iowa to play, especially with that defense, man. They know how to do it, but Iowa's biggest weakness has always been their offense, and Indiana just found a way to win, which is what you need to do in these Big Ten games, because they're not always going to be the USC, Illinois shootouts. You just got to find a way to win ugly games, and they did. So it was a good start to me. Next up was LSU versus Ole Miss. The roles were reversed here. LSU was ranked number 4, Ole Miss ranked number 13. But I've been an Ole Miss guy since I like Jackson Dart, and I took Ole Miss because I think they've been the more balanced team. I think their defense got a little bit better. The offense with Trinidad Chambliss has that rushing threat with him alone, and he can pass the ball. And they, jumped on him early. If they didn't also have that fumble at like the 1 yard line, they could have been up big time in this one. Still, though, they were up by like 2 scores, 2 touchdowns. Garrett Nussmeier and this team and the offense got things going late, but it was just too late. Ole Miss was just a better team overall. They set the tone early, and Lane Kiffin's offenses are going to be electric at home. They have found a way to handle this. And LSU, not awful loss. Obviously, Ole Miss is number 4 in the country for a reason, but they got to find a way because this offense has looked very clunky given how Garrett Nussmeier was, a Heisman favorite coming in. They just really haven't gotten going yet. So they got to figure that out. Will be interesting to see how they do this week. Next up was Tennessee, Mississippi State. Mississippi State set the tone earlier in the year when they dominated ASU for most of the game. ASU did come back, but they were still able to win. They kept this one very close. Obviously went to OT, and they couldn't convert on 4th and goal to tie the game. Still, though, with Blake Shapen, this Mississippi State rushing attack offense is still very good. Their defense is very timely, but Tennessee, Joey Aguilar, it was just too much. Tennessee's offense is still one of the best in the country. Their one loss was to Georgia. No shame in that. Obviously, they're still a big threat. And like I said, they ain't regretting Nico leaving at all. Next up, Iowa State handled Arizona. Rocco Becht, just at home, they know how to win. Like I said, they can put up 40 if they need to only score 17 against Iowa. The defense can step up. They're one of the most complete teams. We saw that week 1 against Kansas State. So hopefully they continue their momentum. Next up was Georgia, Alabama. I picked Alabama. If I'm 90% sure, just because I've liked what I've seen from Ty Simpson. I think he's one of the best passers in college football, if not the best passer right now. They got Jam Miller back, which is huge. The offense, like similar to last year, struck early. I believe they scored all 24 points in the first half. Gunnar Stockton in Georgia's offense got it going late, but Alabama's defense proved to be timely. I think Alabama, credit to Kalen DeBoer, after that week 1 loss, people were already calling for his job in week 2 or in year 2 after just 1 week. I think after finishing 9-4 last year, obviously they ended the year on a little bit of a rough note. After that Georgia game, they kind of did fall off, but Jalen Milroe really could not throw the football all that great. He was great running the ball, but there was limited passing. Ty Simpson can get the ball out to Bernard, who's been looking amazing. Ryan Williams. There's a bunch of different guys. Like I said, Jam Miller come back. This rushing attack has got a bunch of depth. They're one of the most complete teams. I think that FSU loss was honestly may have been beneficial to them. Now they're back up to number 10. I think a team that can definitely go to the CFP. Next up was Oregon versus Penn State. I'm taking credit for this one. I took Oregon. They were able to win it. It was really rough early for Penn State. Even in the fourth quarter, it was 17-3. It looked like it was all Oregon. Then Drew Aller and this offense finally got going. They scored 14 unanswered to tie it. In OT, I was nervous because Penn State got the ball first, immediately scored. I was like, shit. But then Oregon converted some big 4th downs in their first OT drive. Dante Moore was able to make some clutch throws. They tied it. First play of the second OT, Dante Moore finds a slant route for a touchdown, and then the first play for Penn State, Drew Aller throws a pick. It's just unfortunate for Penn State because it seems like whenever they're in these close games, Franklin and Aller can't deliver. I don't, it'll be interesting how they do in the CFP this year because they're still going to make it. They're still one of the most complete teams. This offense, if they can carry that momentum in from the second half, because like I said, the reason why I took Oregon is I think they're a great. I thought they were a little bit more complete, just with the way defense is looking. Dante Moore, this rushing attack. But I didn't like what I saw from Penn State's offense in the first couple weeks, even against bad teams. They were putting up 30, but it wasn't a good 30. And it was just very vanilla, and it looked vanilla for a majority of this game. So if they don't have to fight their way back into games and can be tied with Oregon or even be ahead of Oregon after at halftime, I think that'll be a lot more beneficial to them. And Drew Aller, they got to let him use his arm because that's his best strength. And they kind of start unleashing that, so they can carry that momentum. They'll be just fine. Great game, though. Penn State, always a great whiteout environment for the Saturday night slate. Missouri ran over UMass. Now, I should just say, even though Massachusetts, resident UMass, great school, but, for parties too, but not football. BYU, surprisingly close game. Colorado went up like 14-0. Was a little bit concerned about my pick here, but BYU was able to pull it out. So credit to me. I think I only got one game wrong, and there were some good games here. So I'm going to be happy with that. I think the only game I got wrong was USC Illinois. So I'm going to take full credit for that. Let's see if I can ride that momentum into my NFL picks and my CFP picks for this weekend. First up, we have West Virginia at BYU. I think BYU back at home. If this was at West Virginia, maybe I'm a little bit more prone to picking an upset. But BYU, they found a way to win a tough game at Colorado. I think they'll carry that momentum into this one and remain undefeated to start the year in hopes of going to the CFP. Next up, tomorrow, Kentucky versus Georgia. Kentucky can be very scrappy. If they get off to a hot start, which Georgia's prone to get off to slow starts, yeah, there could be, potential, but Georgia's still one of the best teams, one of the best defenses. Gunnar Stockton, this rushing attack, they should do enough to get it done, especially at home. I'm not really worried. Iowa State, Cincinnati. I think Rocco Becht has been looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I'm going Iowa State in this one, even on the road, but should be a tough one. A Big Ten, Wisconsin versus Michigan. I just trust Michigan's rushing attack more. We've seen Wisconsin against their top opponents. So before that was Alabama, and Alabama dominated. So not really thinking much about it. Illinois versus Purdue. I think Illinois will ride the momentum of the game-winning field goal into this one. And, they still have CFP hopes. So I think they want to make a statement in the Big Ten after that tough loss to Indiana a couple weeks ago. Next up, Texas versus Florida. Arch Manning of Texas, their first SEC game. The offense, especially the passing offense, hasn't looked great. Arch has looked good running the ball, but passing the ball, it's been rough. They did look good their last game against Sam Houston, but it's Sam Houston. At Florida obviously has not been good. They've, been scrappy, but, that first loss to USF has really thrown their whole season in a spin hole. DJ Lagaway hasn't really gotten going with this offense, but still, it's in Florida. It's going to be rainy. I could see this being like a 17-10 type of game. It's going to be ugly, but I'll take Texas. I think they just are more talented. They'll find a way to win, more continuity. Next up, Boise State versus Notre Dame. Boise State has bounced back from that first rough loss against USF. Sorry, I'm always thinking UCF. But still, they don't have an Ashton Gianti, even though their running backs are very good. I still don't trust them heading into Notre Dame. Notre Dame's offense is great. I think Boise State can put up some points, but Notre Dame's offense is too electric. They have too much to play for. Give me USF. And then Penn State versus UCLA. If you want a bounce-back game for Penn State, here you go, even though it's on the road. UCLA, you remember when I said Tennessee doesn't require letting Nico go? It's been abysmal for UCLA. Coach got fired after 3 weeks. I don't think they have a win on the season. They've just looked like poop. Penn State will dominate them, and this will be a perfect get-right game for the Penn State fighting Litany Lions. I almost said fighting alumni, I think, of Illinois. Next up, Virginia versus Louisville. Credit to Virginia. They got a big win last week against FSU. That was a game I did get wrong, so I got 2 wrong. So shout out Virginia. That was a great game. Their offense was pretty good. It's at Louisville. I think it would be scrappy, but given what I saw last week, give me Virginia. Next up, Vanderbilt versus Alabama. I mean, this was the turning point last season. Alabama beats Georgia. We think they're going undefeated. They're winning. Jalen Milroe, Kalen DeBoer win the national titles first year. Next week against Vandy, they lose in a shootout. Vandy does that famous, they toss the goalpost in the Tennessee River. They walked millions of miles to do that. This is going to be an electric game. Diego Pavia in this offense versus Ty Simpson in this offense. It was really comes down to me who is at home. I think Alabama's had this game marked on their calendar. I think the way they've been playing has been great. I think that was kind of the first punch that threw everything into their season. They got punched earlier this season, but they've proven they can bounce back. And like I said, Ty Simpson, this offense, I don't think they'll get off to a slow start like they did against Vanderbilt last year. Diego Pavia in this team, I think, can put up some points. It will be close, but Alabama, I think, has this revenge game marked. I think they win, but could Vanderbilt easily win? Yes. Next up, Oklahoma, Jackson Meter. This offense, pretty much no questions asked. They're going to beat Kent State. Next up, Texas Tech versus Houston. Houston has looked better this year, but still, I'm going Texas Tech, one of the most complete teams. That win against Utah really set a statement that their defense is very good. Offense shows up when it needs to. Can turn on the Jets. Give me Texas Tech in the Battle of Texas. Next up, my Golden Gophers versus Ohio State. I'm going the Golden Gophers here in an upset. No, I am kidding. Obviously, as much as I'd want my Golden Gophers to somehow pull off the stunner, Ohio State's defense is too good. The offense will be able to score enough, despite the Gophers defense, Coy Parrish. They got some players, but still, that loss to Cal really left a bitter taste in my mouth for having a hope. The Gophers were able to beat Rutgers by a field goal, but Ohio State, that's food for them, especially at Ohio State. Maybe my biggest goal is Drake Lindsey, the freshman for the Gophers, who does look like the best quarterback I've seen, for the Gophers in a while. Hopefully he doesn't play abysmal, can, at least throw a competent 200 yards, maybe a touchdown. Ohio State, though, I have this one winning them, like they'll win like 31 to 14ish. I think it'll be around there. Maybe the Gophers can cover the spread if it's like 20 something. Next up, great game in this one. Battle of Florida, Miami versus Florida State. Florida State, like I said, obviously coming off that really tough loss to Virginia, but still this offense is electric. Tommy Castellanos has provided that spark on offense for them. I don't know. I think this is going to be a great game. I think at Florida State, screw it. I'll go the Seminoles. I know Carson Beck in this offense is electric, and it may sound a little bit crazy, but I think Florida State will have a bounce back game. The defense does need to be physical, but I think Florida State's offense will be able to put up points. I just like their offense. They lost a bad one to Virginia, but still an OT dogfight. I think back at home, they get some momentum, but it's in Florida. This is going to be a really close game. Yeah, just give me Florida State. I need an upset in there. Miami fans, I still like you guys. You guys are going to make the CFP. Carson Beck has been looking like a stud this year, better than even I expected. But still, you need an upset in there. It's college football. There's going to be an upset. We don't expect Florida State's going to storm the field in Miami. And then Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. As much as I've loved Mississippi State, if it was at Mississippi State, maybe I could see it. But Texas A&M is just too complete of a team. So, I got to go them in this one to continue. Despite how great of a start is for Mississippi State, I do have them losing 2 in a row. But with that being said, let me know you guys agree, disagree with in my CFP picks this weekend. What upsets do you have? Or, do you guys have Miami dominating Florida State? It should be an interesting one. It should be a great weekend. College football, we always get that unexpected upset. Maybe there's one Kent State pulls off the stunner. Who the hell knows? But also make sure, to let me know your NFL picks, what upsets you have on Upset Watch. And as always, if you're just an NFL fan or a sports fan, please make sure to subscribe. It really means the world. Trying to make content Monday through Friday. Today is Friday, so happy Friday to all you guys. And make sure to enjoy watching a lot of football this weekend. MLB playoffs, if you're an MLB fan, or just see, your favorite NBA team in action this weekend. I'll make sure to do some NBA previews as the season gets closer. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.